Welcome to Fempreneur True Confessions. I remembered to remove the guest from the screen
the last second
before we went live. I did. Usually I forget. Sometimes I forget. Sometimes I remember. It's called Sometimers, okay, or CSR. What we call in this house. Can't remember shit. But anyway, welcome to Fempreneur True Confessions, and Laura, take it away. I'm at a loss for words, which is rare.
You're fine. Yes, this is a rare occasion now. Hi, everyone. As you know, I am Laura, and I'm the owner of ODAA Virtual Assistant Agency. We are here to help small businesses grow and scale their businesses confidently. With the support that you need behind you, knowing that if you scale, you're not going to be wearing all the hats. So we help build a strategy and add solutions to ensure that your focus is on what you need to thrive in your business, while we're doing the work behind the scenes and ensuring that your growth isn't hindered by who's going to get this all done, because eventually we can't do it all. So learning to delegate, learning the strategy, being able to outsource and hand that work off is what we do to help support businesses.
Yeah. And I'm Angelique. I'm with Lady Pyro Solutions. Laura and I do a lot of the same things, not exactly all the things, but Laura, it's about processes, systems, and automations, right? And that's what we use as project managers and with our teams to create this increased ability to scale, and just to have a business where you're not doing everything, like you said, wearing all the hats, right? And we've all experienced that. But Lady Power Solutions is we take a heart-centered approach to the project and event management that we do for mostly women entrepreneurs. I look for women that are on fire, they're lighting up the world with their passion and their drive, so that we can help them achieve their missions and do it in the most authentic way possible.
Absolutely. Love it. And we love each other, our business besties. And so together we put together Fempreneur True Confessions podcast. And our mission here is to empower women in business, as well as in life, to live authentically while supporting each other instead of competing with each other. We show that clearly here, though we are in the same work. We are non-compete. We don't believe in the competitive part. We are of an abundant mindset, knowing that there's enough for everyone. And we're all here to help support are the people that we know in business and people that we don't know yet, but really just to give you that support, especially as women in business, to really show that we don't have to compete. We can be here for each other. We can support each other and be authentic in that through our business and our own personal lives as well.
Right, because there's more than enough. There's more than enough. Even though we do really similar things and we support even the same similar target market. I mean, you work with women that are very mission oriented, mission driven, values driven, just like I do. I think that's what we attract, and that's why we are like business besties, because when Laura came to me and she's like, hey, I want to do podcasts. Will you help? Will you want to do it with me? Blah, blah, blah. We immediately synced up on it. We were aligned. And I think that's one of the things that we look for in other women, in our guests, in our clients, in each other, is, and in this community that we're building, is that alignment of values. We want to normalize what it looks like to have challenges in entrepreneurship. That's just kind of like hand in hand, they go together, like two peas in a pod, right? You've got entrepreneurship, then you've got challenge. And just sharing the lessons we've learned as we're going through those challenges, and the goal being to lift other women up, never tear them down, normalize what it looks like when women succeed at supporting each other and building up their confidence, encouraging them to use their gifts and their passions to fulfill their life's calling. So Fempreneur True Confessions, the podcast, and everything else that comes afterwards, is to build, maintain, and grow this sisterhood. And this sisterhood believes in an abundance mindset, sharing those challenges and helping each other rise to our highest potential. And today we've got one of those women with us, as we always do. We're
Yes.
so blessed that these women come to us. You know, like we've said before, we do reach out, but so many times they come to us and ask to be on the podcast. And, fortunately, Laura had this wonderful connection. Do you want to introduce Nicole?
Absolutely. So, Nicole Majik, she is an accomplished leadership and empowerment strategist, an educator, and has created a highly effective life transitioning empowerment program, the Alchemy of Transformation. It's amazing. She awakens your true potential by erasing limiting beliefs and showing you how to live a life you deserve without compromising who you are or what you love. She's appeared on various radio shows, local TV, as a keynote speaker for international conferences as well. And she uses the strategic formulas of her empowerment program, The Alchemy of Transformation, along with CBT and NLP techniques. She helps you permanently erase self sabotaging beliefs and transform your obstacles into the opportunities to achieve the success you deserve or desire. Ah, there we go. Hi, Nicole.
Hello,
Welcome,
Laura and
welcome.
Angelique. Thank you. Thank you.
So,
So good to be
thank
here.
we're happy to have you. Uh, just like we have every week, we invite the current guest to introduce the next guest. So last week, Linda Sunshine West introduced you. And do you remember we were talking about what CBT meant? Because we're familiar with NLP, neuro linguistic programming, right? But we're like, oh, what's CBT? And Linda came up with some really creative definitions for those acronyms. But if you
Did.
want to know what they were, because I don't remember, to be honest, um, and go back and listen to the episode.
Yeah.
But that brings me to, so what does this CBT thing? What does that mean?
CBT is cognitive behavioral therapy.
Got it.
So it's ways in which that you can help to, like coping mechanisms and things like that for different types of behaviors when you're adjusting. So I tackle things from different angles um, while we're working on busting through old negative beliefs.
Awesome. Very cool.
Wonderful.
Very cool.
I love that.
So this has been a common theme, I think, in our guests too, that a lot of women leave corporate, myself included, Laura included. So you left a corporate six-figure world and you started your own business. And so you mentioned that you really had to trust yourself to make it in that business without faking it. And I thought, oh, well, that is a really poignant view. Laura, we lost you. You look like me. Um, she's also muted, which is weird. Probably because she muted. So tell us a little bit about your story of leaving corporate and starting your own business and what that was like.
When I started the business, I was still working in corporate, and then I left a handful of years after, kind of doing it as, it was more of um, a love that grew into like
Did you
a
have a formal
full-time business.
exit strategy at all?
Um, yeah, it was called mercury poisoning.
Oh, so okay. All right. So that's kind of involved.
Yeah, I battled many years about um around the time that I started my business, I was unknowingly being poisoned with mercury.
Are you
Um,
pescatarian
it-
or were you or
no, actually, good thing I was not. Um, it actually, this is a delicate situation. However, what ended up happening was that I have a genetic mutation. And it came to light when I had the mercury poisoning and almost died. I ended up seeing a specialist who did a bunch of different tests after, going to regular doctors for over a year and a half, getting all these tests done for all these different things that were showing up. If you put them all together, it looks like mercury poisoning, but you look at them individually and it just looks like nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And everything was coming back normal. But when we discovered this, I didn't have any elimination rate. So everything that was coming into my body was getting stored somewhere, and it eventually went to my brain. I found out after I left corporate world, um, a couple of years, like I had asked for things to get tested in my office, and that didn't happen. But I did find out that the room right next to my office was the old thermometer room. So with mercury having a 32-year half-life, it's a long time before that just disappears. And so if I was chronically exposed, then it was that chronic exposure that just kept building up, building up, building up. So I had different symptoms all along the way. I mean, some of it was my hair was falling out, um, you know, being confused, not really being able to focus. So individually, I just kind of said, oh, my job is pretty demanding and stressful,
Dang.
and oh, it's just stress. I can get through it. It's just
Yeah,
stress.
yeah. Did you work
Until
in
I
a
was typing
hospital? Is
backwards.
that why there was a thermometer room?
I worked for pharmaceutical companies for over 16 years as a chemist.
Gotcha.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah.
I remember as a kid, I was playing with a thermometer because I was trying to fake being sick. And I lit a match and I held the thermometer over and it broke. And at first I was like, oh my God, oh my God. And then I saw all of the mercury rolling around on the top of my mom's vanity. And I started playing with it because I didn't know I was just a kid. I didn't know any better. But yeah, so God only knows.
Yeah, I remember my sixth grade teacher brought mercury in, and we were playing with it on a desk because
What?
it was so cool. Yeah, I mean, people didn't know back then.
Yeah.
Dang.
Uh,
I
Um,
was warned not to break it, that it was deadly. So if you break it, you will die. It was my mother was
yeah,
very,
I think I
very,
remember hearing that too, but I was like, yeah, whatever. It broke. I'm not dead. Let's play with it.
yeah.
So talk about the process of and the conflict or challenges that you faced as you were entering into this new business venture and trusting yourself to do that and to succeed without faking it.
yeah, and that this was a delicate place for me, very vulnerable because I was the sole provider for my family at the time. I was going through that mercury poisoning and just really in this space of what is going on and what can I do? I mean, I was passing out and things like that and almost died.
Mm,
So, that being said, I when I left the corporate world, I had to recover from memory loss and um, not being able to speak properly. It was really bad. You could say things to me, and all I would hear is wah, 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 kind of like the
mm-hmm,
Peanuts teacher.
mm-hmm.
And it would take a minute for it to process through and finally decipher, and then I had to figure out what the words were to answer back. So I
Mhm.
really felt that I know what a stroke victim feels like, even though I never had a stroke before, because the knowing what you want to say but can't get it from here to here to come out, it was horrifying. So I felt that everything in my life was destroyed. I had relationships that were destroyed, growth in my job destroyed, all kinds of things. And even to the point of my financial situation, I had to liquidate my retirement assets to pay for my recovery and my detoxification from mercury poisoning, which took a good year and a half and a good year on chelation therapy, which is extremely harrowing and
Expensive.
expensive. I mean, the first month was $18,000 for what I did to get out of that situation. And so moving into that space, it was very vulnerable of how do I pull my life together when it felt
Mm-hmm.
completely dismantled? And you don't have to suffer from mercury poisoning to feel that way.
No.
That's the biggest thing is whatever is happening in your life when you feel that it's a disaster, it's pulling yourself back together. And how do
Yeah.
you do that? And just looking at what is it that I have right now as my resources? What can I do right now? And not, oh, well, I could do this or I could put this together and this future talk. It's what do you have at your disposal right now? And that's how I
Mm-hmm.
had to look at everything was I only have right now. I don't even know if I
Yes.
have tomorrow.
Right. Well, and sometimes, and I'm sure this with the cognitive behavioral aspect, because sometimes just getting through the next hour, that's all I'm going to focus on, is just getting through the next hour the way I feel, which could be scared, anxious, pain, fear, whatever that is, just getting through. If I can just get through the next hour, or the, top of the hour, whatever it is, okay, you made it. And now I'm just going to get through the next hour, and doing that day after day after day, or just then you can go, oh, I can get through the next day. I can get through the next week. I can get through the next month. And, um, and it's okay to be in that place and use those methods.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
I remember before I had my a different near death experience. I had suffered um, postpartum depression that like escalated into like this obsession with death, and um, every day that's how I got through was
Mm-hmm.
even like all through the day, and I just kept saying my kids need me, and so I just would say, okay, just a little while longer, a little while longer, a little bit more, a little longer, just a little longer, just a little longer, and that just a little longer becomes days and weeks and
Yeah.
months when you can just be present saying, I know I don't feel okay right now,
And
but
that's
just a
okay.
little longer. I'll
Yeah,
just hang on a little longer.
Yeah. Yeah.
I like that.
Because
And
everything
we don't,
changes.
yeah, and you don't think about it. I mean, you go and you set big goals, but that's not for everybody. And then depending what you're dealing with in your life, those little steps, those little teeny tiny goals mean so much more sometimes than that big, great audacious goal. And those are wonderful, but it's those little tiny steps that really feel the most empowering and most exciting to overcome and get through. And I think we forget about that. A lot of times you're taught, well, what's your big goals? And I even do it to my poor son from time to time. Then I got to remember, okay, next little steps, little steps. But it's that thought. We were always taught, what are your big dreams and goals? And it's like, well, what are the little ones? What are your day to day, just fun little life goals that are just for today. And
Celebrations are very, very important all along the way to whatever goal that you have, small, huge, everywhere in between, changing the world. If you celebrate all along the way, you are reinforcing that what you're doing is is the right direction. You're giving yourself that edge. You're giving yourself that propulsion and to keep moving forward, right? And when you celebrate along the way, it just keeps you moving. It's super important with anything, any kind of behavior, habit or behavior. There's a reward system. So it's really important to have your own reward system, even silly little things. Just even if it's a simple yes, did it, right? That
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, that it's super important. Have to have it.
So I recently, oh wow, I just did something and just maximized everybody. Oh, this is good. I like this. It made you guys go full screen. I don't even know how I did it. But I am changing my lifestyle, my eating habits, and things like that, because my health. I've just completely ignored my health for years and years and years, and it's finally caught up with me. Um, and so I've lost some weight, and I was thinking, but that number seems so small, and I feel like I've been doing this for so long. And then I really actually crunched the numbers, and I'm like, wait a minute, that's like 3 pounds a week. That's actually a decent number, you know? And I have a health coach, and she and I were talking yesterday, and we did our weekly call. And she also has coursework that I do online, and I had been watching the coursework, and one of the things she said was, I don't work miracles. We're not going to lose weight 100 pounds in 12 weeks. It took you longer than 12 weeks to gain 100 pounds. It's going to take you longer. And she was just speaking in general terms, but um and that's true, because our expectation, and I don't know where this came from, but we wanted this instant gratification. We want it all. We want it right now. And when it doesn't happen, we feel defeated. We give up. Instead of going, hey, like you said, the celebrations along the way, because the joy is in the journey, not in the destination. Think about it. If you plan a vacation, do you enjoy planning the vacation? I know I do. I really, really do. That's why I love event planning so much. It's enjoyable. And then you have it. And yes, you enjoy that time. If you're not the planner, you enjoy that time. If you're not the one responsible for everything that goes wrong. And then it's over. But really, the joy came in the journey, right? And leading up to the actual vacation, yes, and having the vacation. But so I so believe in celebrating every single quote unquote milestone, even if it was, I got out of bed today and took a shower.
Yep.
If that's a milestone for you, if that's a big deal for you,
Yeah.
freaking celebrate it.
Absolutely. Yeah. But learning to those little celebrations, yeah, they're huge. And for some people, I mean, that's realistic. For some, it's like it's something that small, where it's like, okay, this is more than what was happened yesterday. So that is fantastic. So
You touched on a little bit your near-death experience, but you mentioned that it changed your life, that it changed everything for you. So do you want to talk a little bit more about that?
Sure, I can talk about that. There was, do you want to hear about the actual near-death experience or just the transition after?
I think that the effect that kind of thing has on people
Yeah.
is eye-opening for those of us who haven't, because it very quickly puts a lot of things in perspective.
Yeah, it does. And especially when there's elements in there that absolutely cannot be explained. And I'll try to give a condensed version of it, where I was driving home from work and there was just a lot of surreal things that were happening. And I remembered, I had the radio cranked, so I was listening to, I remember all these little details, but Tool Stinkfist song was playing on the radio, and I had it turned up, and then all of a sudden I just felt like something pushed my face or head like in this direction, and I looked over, and on the other side of the Jersey barrier there was a woman who was just kind of swaying from this impact that her driver's side door was crushed in. And I just remembered thinking, wow, everything is slow motion except for my brain was at hyper speed, taking everything in and processing things at this fast rate. That what happened to this woman, and why is her door smashed in, and where is this other car? And then it was look up, and I looked up through my windshield, and there was a guy who his car was coming down onto my car like this, and his face was all contorted and he was screaming, and I just looked up at him, and I remember taking this huge breath in, and then I ducked down like this as far as I could go, because at the same time that I was doing that, I saw the vision of what was going to happen with his car landing on my car, and it like rolling over on the roof, and the roof is going to come down and snap my neck, and I'm going to die. And so I was trying to get as low as I could, and I screamed
Well, yeah.
like a 2-year-old on the playground.
I think I might be saying a few choice things too, but anyway.
I don't know if there was time for that, but I just remembered seeing my husband at the time, my kids, just my immediate family, and saying goodbye to everybody, and then being like, okay, I'm ready. And this calmness, like this still calm feeling came over me. Everything went black. And then at that point, I felt like I was projected forward. And the best way that I can describe it is like I was the pinball in a pinball machine, and you pull that lever back and you release it forward, and that thing shoots. And that's what I felt. I was just going through this tunnel thing. And then when I came to, I was holding the steering wheel, and I just went, like, it was like I hadn't breathed in I don't know how long, and I just gasped for this breath. And then as I, acclimated, I'm looking around where I was, and I'm like, oh my God, I almost just died. Oh my God. I think I should have been dead. I should have been dead. And then I thought to myself, oh my God, I'm looking around at no cars on the Mass Pike, which is like the busiest highway ever during rush hour, no mind you. And I'm going, oh my God, am I dead? No cars in front of me, no cars behind me, no cars on the other side. And as I'm saying this, I see one lone car. And I'm like, oh my God, am I on the highway to heaven or hell right now? Because I'm not really sure what's happening. So I ended up calling my mom. What do you do in times like you call your mom?
Aww.
And I called my mom, and this is where it kind of gets a little bit funny, because I call her up and I said, hey, Mom. She's like, oh my God, Nikki, are you okay? I was just praying for you. I usually pray for you in the morning, but I just had this sense. And she's like, blah, 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 like going on and on. And I was like, oh my God, Mom, I go, can you just shut up right now? I go, am I dead? And she's like, what? No, you're not dead. And if you do, my mom, like when she gets to talking fast, she's like, what? No, you're not dead. You're talking to me on the phone. What are you talking about? And I told her what happens, and she's like, whoa, you rode angel wings. I'm like, or a wormhole or something, definitely something, whatever it was, angel wings, wormhole. I don't know why I'm here. Mm-hmm. And then I just remembered just being like, from that point forward, it was still at least a half an hour ride home, even with no traffic. And I was like, what day is it? What time is it? I went home. I just grabbed my youngest at the time was at the door to greet me, and I just grabbed him, and it was a couple days before his birthday. And I was just like, oh my God, I love you so much, and I didn't want to die anymore. I did, like, immediately, that whole obsession with death or how I could die at any given moment left me, and just a whole series of other things happened where all of my intuitive gifts that I've had since I was a kid amplified to the nth degree. And I was having these visions, these like healing things that were happening to people around me. I could see things in people and just, help them heal from pains and things that they were suffering from. And it was a little overwhelming actually at first, because I didn't know what was going on. I was kind of confused, like, what is happening to me, and why is this happening?
Mm-hmm.
So there was just like this whole process that unfolded, and um, I didn't know what I was going through. I just knew I was going through something absolutely amazing.
Mm-hmm. Love it.
And
Yeah,
so
you
did
had
you
a
make
purpose in this world.
changes
Did I make?
after that? Changes? Did you do
Oh,
anything differently after that?
there were a whole bunch of changes that happened. I with everything, like just the way I looked, the way I dressed, my hair, everything seemed to change, and even just my focuses and abilities. Again, I knew things. I just knew things to this degree that I would say stuff and I'm like, I don't even know if that's true. And I'd go and look it up, and I'd find that everything was true, or everything that I saw in my head was something that was described the same way. So I would have all these visions. So I recorded a whole bunch of stuff. And I mean, I have journal after journal. I journaled every single day
Mhm.
because these things just came to me. And I still have visions that I had back then that are still unfolding. And some of them were just crazy. And I look back and I'm like, wow, the stuff that I
Yeah.
would see and that have come to fruition was I don't know. It's really
So
cool.
did it change your business focus, or did you stay in the same business?
That business, so that was my near-death experience, actually happened 2 years before I started my business.
Mm.
So it did put me in that trajectory of what my business became, and why it started, how it started. It was
Yeah.
all part of that, the aftermath of that.
Did you see your business, as you said, you were seeing things, they're still coming into fruition. Did you see your business back then through, okay, this is really what my purpose is, or this is what I'm here to do and move forward towards? Or was that a little less unclear?
I saw visions about my business and where it goes, and it was hard for me to believe where, because what I was seeing, I couldn't understand how it even would get there.
Mm-hmm.
And um, I see it now. I understand. I understand a lot
Yeah.
now, and because
Yeah.
of what has already come to fruition. So I also know where it's going, and that's the exciting part, is where the parts that haven't unveiled themselves fully just yet.
So, um, I'm curious, have you heard of Marin Muter or Mutter? I'm not sure how to say your last name.
That name sounds familiar, but I'm not
She,
sure.
she wrote a book, and I think her pen name was Marin Meandering
Okay.
or Meander, one of the two. But I recently heard about her on a podcast, and when she was very young, she started displaying these gifts. And one of the things that she would say was that she could remember things before she was born. She could remember the things in utero. And then when she was fairly young, her older sister would pay her 50 cents to rub her back. And she was rubbing her back one time, and she said something's wrong. She was down near her lower back, to one side, and she's like, something's not right here. And her sister got aggravated and said, well, then stop, never mind, but she was curious, so she kept rubbing her back. She was like, no, and she kept rubbing her back, but she didn't say anything else. But it didn't leave her. She was still thinking on it. She was still pondering. And the next morning she woke up, and she knew her sister was going to die of cancer. And she's really young, though, so she doesn't have this. She didn't know not to say anything, basically. She woke up. It was very sudden. She runs into her sister's room. She's not there. She runs into the bathroom. Her sister's in the shower, and she yells her name, and I don't remember what it was. And her sister pops her head around she's like, what? She's like, you're going to die of cancer. And she said, I thought I knew what my sister would say. I thought she was going to say that old saying, what you say bounces off of me and sticks to you. Mm-hmm. And she said, and I was going to take it. I was going to take it from her because I thought that's what she was going to say. And I was fully prepared, but she didn't. She got mad and she said something else to go away or whatever. And of course, decades later, her sister does find out that she has ovarian cancer. But from that point on, their relationship was broken. Mm-hmm. And they never really were close again. And her sister went into, all kinds of therapy for the cancer. But none of it was effective. And she knew she was dying. She was in hospice care. And she finally reached out to her and said, I need to see you. And they reconciled, and she apologized. But her sister said, now I know what you said was true. Mm-hmm. And she got to share that story with her about, I wish you had just said what I thought you were going to say. And it was just, but this woman, and she's not that old. I say that I'm in my 50s, but she seems like she's in her 20s, late 20s, early 30s, maybe like my daughter's age. But she's written several books, and she is just, she's gone on to really help people transition from this life. She has this way about her. So I highly recommend that you, because your story seems similar to me. She had these gifts her entire life. Mm-hmm. She could remember past lives without regression. Mm-hmm. Like she was just a child, didn't even know how to write. She couldn't even write her name. She went to her sister and said, how do I write my name? Mm-hmm. And she started writing letters. And that's the first, I think one of the first books is the Letters to the Flower Lady, because she remembers one of her past lives. There's this flower lady that she lived with, and she didn't know. She goes, I don't know if it was a mom or an aunt or a sister or just someone that kind of adopted me, but she taught me everything. And she remembers that entire lifetime. And it's just really interesting, though, throughout her whole life, she was demonstrating these gifts. Mm-hmm. And, but they weren't perceived that way. Mm-hmm. And it, I feel like we all have that potential in us, right? Yeah. It's there. We're born with it. But I think, like, for me, I've had some similar situations from the time I was a child. I just kind of knew things. Mm-hmm. And I just always thought, well, I must have heard somebody say that, or, whatever. And we discount it. We disqualify it. Mm-hmm. And, so I don't know why that came to mind. I wanted to share that with you. Absolutely. And our listeners, evidently.
I think you're right. We all share, those gifts and what you do with it. I have said for many years that I knew I had gifts, but I was very young and had night terrors and was scared. So it was a shut off moment in my life where you turn away from it, where you block whatever you can to just get past whatever fears or whatever's going on. And I walked away from many of those gifts for many, many years. And it wasn't until leaving corporate and going through that trauma and other traumas that had kind of come before it, but I could see through the progression of life where I finally gave up like whatever it was that was screaming at me to pay attention, that it finally was that time to pay attention, and then realizing and then coming back to embracing it, where I'm much older now. My dreams don't scare me. I'm okay to be like, I'll take the dream. It's not like they're always pleasant and they're scary, but they're not, 5 and 6 year old night terror scary kind of thing. So it's interesting how different things in your life can come about, whatever you may have shut off or turned away from. When it comes back as a full force. Like, you're not going to continue to ignore. I'll let you have your time, and then then it's that big push of, you don't get to ignore what I'm saying at this point. And no matter what anybody's beliefs are, everybody's different. I think all of us in here have very similar alignment. But it works with everything, in any religion. You're taught somebody is speaking to you. I mean, whether it's the angels or it's,
no matter what you call it.
Yeah. So
it's all source. It's all that one source.
Yeah.
And all kinds of theories out there. But do we really know? No.
Right.
So one of the questions that has come up and with past guests, and I really like, I think I'm gonna keep doing this, is asking our current guests if there was one piece of advice or one activity or something that was pivotal, or what's the word? There's this thing that kind of ushers you into another area. What's that word? Not a muse, but something like
Catalyst?
it. Thank you. That's
chemistry,
exactly the word.
It would be a catalyst.
Thank you. That is exactly the word I was looking for. So if there was a piece of advice that you could give a fellow entrepreneur, or just a fellow, like, whatever.
Anyone.
What would that be?
That would be to really understand yourself. Really know yourself, dig deeper into who you are and what you want and what your values are, because all of those things, and that's really where I start with my clients, because if you don't know who you are, you don't know what's aligned for you for what you want. If you don't know what you want, you don't know how to get it. And in order to get what you truly want and be completely happy and fulfilled in your life, what you want and who you are and your values all have to be aligned.
Yeah.
So
that's great advice.
Yeah.
Great advice. So, this particular episode, we didn't talk a whole lot about business challenges, but I think that that's important to recognize, that part of being in business is being healthy, knowing ourselves, so that we can be successful in what we do. I think mind, body, and spirit, we do have to be healthy in all three areas in order to effectively, run a business. So, and the healthier we can be in all those areas, the more effective our business and
actually,
what's the word?
if I could say something to that,
Yeah.
because one of my clients just said to me, I came to you for business stuff, and we started to dig into defining, I call it defining your desire. So defining your desire encompasses what you want, why do you want it, who are you, who do you want to show up as, and all of those pieces, that really understanding yourself. And she admitted that piece, she wanted to hurry up and get past it. And
Oh,
yeah, and the thing is that's the thing, is we think we know what we want, but as soon as we start to define it, it starts to change because we didn't really know what we wanted. And that was such a key element to figuring out what this client wanted in their business.
Yeah.
And now everything is so clear and continues to be able to be moving forward. And that's the thing, is if you get yourself in check, everything else falls into place, whether it's money, love, business, health, all of it. It ripple effects out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think my biggest
And
growth has come from starting a business. I had one other time period about the time I met my husband, when that was a maturity growth. This was the relationship that was going to morph into that true commitment, that marriage, that lifetime, that kind of thing, where I'd never really been as serious about that beforehand. I admit that. So don't tell anyone. But that was like a big growth moment, because I was a wild child, and I had relationships, but they weren't what they were. And I was faithful, I was committed, I was in it, I was open, willing, vulnerable, all those things. So that was the first true growth for me. And I was, in my early 30s with that. And then now in, my mid 40s, starting this business and getting into that, this has been the second, or the most challenging and the most growth. But it definitely was. There are certain points in your life where there's a growth. And if you haven't, I'm not the same person that most people would remember me as, even just 15, 20 years ago, if not sooner than that. But these challenges that come up, and I have definitely changed a lot in the last 2 years, even, to where my husband and my son and my closest friends and family are like, yeah, there's a lot of change. And this business ownership, where it wasn't meant to be a personal growth moment. I was starting a business, so it was supposed to be business, right? But it had to happen inside. It couldn't just be the outside. And it was very interesting to figure that out and be like, oh, great. Welcome to the moment, right? So like, tap in and let's go kind of thing. So yeah.
if that's true, though, I mean, when we do things that are a little bit out of our comfort zone, it makes us stretch and learn and grow, and those are all good things. But Nicole, thank you for being with us and sharing so much of yourself, and such great advice and insightful story that you have. I think we could go down quite a bit of a rabbit hole, you and I, and Laura.
Yeah.
But let's move forward, and we like, as part of our in what we do, we do like to have our guests offer some kind of freebie or something. So Laura, you want to talk about that?
Absolutely. So Nicole is offering the Alchemy of Transformation Facebook group connection there. So we will add a link to join the Facebook group, as well as the Annihilate, Self-Sabotage in 3 Steps. So those are 2 different links that we will add to the show notes, so that you can look into those. Being able to be a part of Nicole's group. I know I'm in her Facebook group. Love it.
I'm getting in there.
Yep. And, the conversations we've had, Nicole does amazing things. I would definitely go in and also get the Annihilate Self-Sabotage. It just there are things that she does, and ways of making you think and really just get into who you are and what you are. And again, like she said, your values have to align, and you have to really get to know who you are. And she's very helpful with that. So I would definitely recommend that.
Awesome. Well, great. So Nicole, would you like to introduce our guest for next week, Autumn Proctor?
Absolutely. Okay. So next week on the show, Autumn Proctor. Autumn was born in Lawrence, Massachusetts, but spent her formative years in Spring Hill, Florida. A second generation artist, the daughter of a tattooer, she has been a painting instructor for college students and amateur artists from childhood to twilight years for the best part of a decade now. She's the owner and sole proprietor of Traveling Arts Parties, a company that serves the greater Tampa area, as well as a Bob Ross certified instructor. Ooh, happy trees.
Happy trees.
Happy trees and puppy clouds. She primarily works with oils, but does try to keep a diverse tool set. She's worked and taught in acrylic, charcoal, graphite, and even done tattooing herself. She's passionate about bringing joy to the mundane and expresses that through her teaching. There is nothing that drives her more than a student who is certain they can't paint and then seeing the look on their face after just a 2-hour session and they've produced a landscape or portrait of their pet that they never dreamed they could do from their own hand. So she's obviously amazing. There's no challenge that she won't tackle, and she is constantly working to be able to interpret her client's desire through her own prism and produce a work that they enjoy and also with a challenge for her. So she sounds
Awesome.
absolutely amazing. I love her already.
And I love that we're going to have a local person. I live in Florida. I live in Spring Hill. So I'm really looking forward to having Autumn on the podcast. And I just thought of this idea of maybe doing something in person, but I don't know if that's possible. We'll see. We'll see. That would be cool. That would be super cool, wouldn't it? So next week is Autumn. And again, thank you, Nicole, for being with us. And we will, I think our ask, we are right now, our ask is still subscribe on YouTube. If you're already subscribed on YouTube, find something else of ours to subscribe to. Help us build that following and share. If you are already subscribed, if you would please invite others and share the podcast, we would greatly appreciate that. And so we will see you all next time, same bat channel, same bat time next week. Thanks.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Have